Doug. We are on.
Yes, we are.
All right. Welcome, everybody, back to the
ghost.
We put this little, towel shirt over the microphone, so hopefully that gets rid of a little bit of that background noise. We've been trying to improve the podcast a little bit.
No, we haven't.
But before we get into that, welcome back to the Absurdity podcast with Doug and Nick, where we go over communication, fitness, absurd hypotheticals. We try to have some fun. But sometimes we mess up and we just talk about things that don't matter for 10 minutes. So it's really up to you what you're going to take away from the podcast. But here it is. We're going to get started. First one of 2022. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. What's the New Year's have in store for you?
Well, honestly, I don't really have too much goals, plans for the new year. I've already got stuff that I'm kind of working on. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's going to come to fruition this year, I guess. But going to Austin and things like that. Getting a new job and things. But, I don't know. I'm kind of just, open-ended with 2022. 2020 and 2021 really kind of taught me that you can't control or predict anything. And there's really no way to, I like setting goals. I really do. But, I've been kind of, not trying to set as specific goals. Just kind of let things be. And then have, things that I can control as goals. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense?
Yeah, it seems logical. Why would you set goals for things that you can't control?
Yeah.
Instead of just it's not something you can work towards.
Yeah. So then you worry about stuff for no reason.
Well, I do that for fun, actually.
I have a game that I wanted to play, actually. I forgot to mention this earlier, but I wanted to go over just 2-3 minutes real quick. Your rating and reason for 2020, 2021, and then a prediction for 2022, as in what would you score the year out of 10, and then kind of a reason, but just an overarching thing, not super detailed. You know what I mean?
Okay. 2020, I would give a 4.5 out of 10. Straight out the hat.
I was gonna give it a 5, so yeah.
Okay. You want me to give you a broad reason for it?
Yeah, if you can think of one.
2020 is when the beginning of COVID happened, and everything that happened circa 2020 was in the past. And it was we have to move on. That's no longer society. We are different, and you can't do anything about it. And by the way, thanks for being jobless. 2021, I would give an 8 out of 10 because it taught me a lot of valuable life It taught me a lot of valuable life lessons that I needed for my 20s, and it was because of 2020 being a shit year that 2021 had to be also a good and shit year, and you had to learn from all of that.
Yeah.
And then I'm taking that to 2022
prediction,
which I'll hopefully be a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
I was gonna say 9.4, but what's a 10 out of 10 year?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping 2022 I use those lessons I learned, take the tools I've gained from that, and then use them in 2022 to make them a very beneficial year.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, that's kind of about what I was going to say, too, roughly. 2020 was just... that was a rough year.
5 out of 10.
Well, it's just I look back on it sometimes, and it's man, we didn't do anything. Everybody was all upset. Everybody was irritated. The job market was trash. The economy overall was not doing that well. The coronavirus stuff happened. It just seems everybody was unhappy, and there wasn't a lot of progress going forward as a species, as a human species, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Then 2021 was kind of it was better because people were hey, we already did a year of this. This is not happening again. And then you started noticing some people kind of fighting back or leaving and doing their own thing, or people just kind of realizing I want to do this hobby as a business, or I want to do this.
A lot of lines drawn in the sand.
Yes, exactly. Everybody started, which it's good and bad because it's you start drawing lines in the sand, and it's nice because then you've got boundaries. So there's not going to be as much stepping on you. But when everybody starts doing that and you start creating that tribal type
tribalism.
It is tribalism, and it's hard to deal with because it's it's your nature to do that. But at the same time, you have to do it with an open mind. That's the tricky part, it seems like. Everybody's doing this and it's beneficial. But once the lines are drawn, people are I'm right and you're wrong. And that's it.
And they're not willing to cooperate.
Yeah. And it's like, it's weird for me because I've always like made friends and like made network connections and like gotten jobs and like done everything in my life with a somewhat of an open mind, like trying to, like I have my boundaries and I have my things, but I've always tried to kind of allow new things to come in and allow new perspectives and like try and figure things out. And that was always like something that was really, you know, central to my personality and my like way of being. So it's really weird to see all this stuff happening in the last couple of years where that just got diminished. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of strange. But like I think 22 is going to be good because, I mean, just like when I was Ubering people around and stuff, I've been kind of asking this a little bit and kind of trying to see what people's perspectives was or are. And everybody seems pretty looking forward to 2022. Like I don't know how to phrase this the right way, but
they're optimistic.
Yeah, I think most people are pretty optimistic about 2022, whether it's good or bad. Like maybe there's a huge problem, but that problem allows us to move forward. You know what I mean? I think everybody wants to get out of what we've been in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think people are. I mean, I was mentioning this to you earlier. Are fed up with just a lot of stuff that like they can't control, that they keep getting told, and all this information's like, hey, this is a problem. You have to do this, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
People are kind of like, well, I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to figure out how they're going to live accordingly.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like no one likes being told what to do. No one likes being told you have to do this a certain way. And even in jobs and stuff, like all the best jobs that I've ever had were very autonomous. Like when I worked at Verizon and stuff, we ran the store. It was me and one other guy. We had the opportunity to do whatever we wanted for the most part. I mean, like within reason. Mm-hmm. But we had the opportunity to make decisions for ourselves and like make decisions for the store, make decisions for how to sell things and like what products and things like that. And it was fantastic. I mean, we doubled our numbers every month because we had the autonomy. And like when you have that, it gives you a sense of like purpose within that. So now that business is no longer just a job for me, but it's a project that I've been working on. Mm-hmm. And same with the other guy that I'm working with, right? So now we've got this business that we're kind of working with together, and granted it's not ours, but we've got the autonomy to make decisions and do things ourselves and make our own, you know, informed decisions. So it's like, it just makes it's more personal, you know what I mean? Like I really hate being told what to do, and most people do. And so when there's problems coming up, like whether it's societally or economically or, you know, in your family, friends, whatever, when you don't have a choice, like when someone takes that choice away, or when they say there's only one option, or there's no option, or this is inevitable and this is how we're going to do it, then there's no autonomy, and it takes away like your free will and your ability to like do things yourself. And like I think that's the biggest thing that happened is like I noticed a lot of people, especially our age, that were like, hey, like you cannot tell us what to do. It's not possible. Because if you try and tell us what to do, then we're going to destroy that thing. You know what I mean? And I've noticed a lot of that in different aspects of life. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Being autonomous in jobs, in like business, I think is going out of style. I'll take a sip of coffee too, just because I'm mimicking.
You think it's going out of style?
Yeah. I think like 20, 30 years ago, people had a lot of free will to do whatever they wanted with their business or whatever business they worked for. And I really like the idea that you had when you worked for Verizon, where you can kind of manage the store how you see fit. Because that's what I like about being a manager of like a retail store is I like project managing. I like getting a job, getting told like how it needs to be done, but deciding like how that vision gets like done.
Yeah. Well, that's what in theory, that's what you're being paid to do. Like if you were just a robot, then
what's the need for you?
Exactly. The reason that you exist as an employee, like most of the time anyway, if it's not like just like a entry level job that like a robot could do, like, you know what I mean? If you're working at McDonald's or something,
that's exactly what I was thinking. Drive-through?
Yeah, it's already been replaced.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing a job that's not there yet, that's not able to be automated, then like you're being paid, in my opinion anyway, to be making decisions and being able to run things a certain way. And that's... It's weird to see that being taken away a little bit. And like I don't want to speak for all businesses because I kind of don't agree with you actually. I think that 30, 40 years ago it was like you have to do it this way. Like maybe if you were Rockefeller, you know what I mean? Or like you owned
I don't know. It feels like you can get away with a lot more 20, 30 years ago.
I don't know though, because like there wasn't as much regulations, there wasn't as much like...
Exactly, so you have more freedom. And think about like the stories you hear of like, yeah, I actually closed down the store with your mom earlier because we got to like have the whole theater to ourselves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like people had a lot. There wasn't a lot of regulations, like you were saying, a lot of rules. So like, they didn't have to follow anything. They had a lot of willpower.
Yeah. Well, I guess the reason that I'm tempted to disagree is because I do think you're right, actually, about
It's
like
fun.
Well, but when like 20 or 30 years ago or whatever, if you were running the business, then yes, you're right. You definitely had more options and more choices and more free will. But it seems like if you're an employee is kind of what I'm talking about. Whereas like now it seems like they make a little bit more initiative to kind of like, I don't know, kind of allow people to like spend time with their family, allow people to have the holidays off, allow people to like not work as long, have more vacation, things like that. It seems like we've been kind of slowly like getting better, you know what I mean? Because we're not in factories anymore. So there is an evolution that's been progressing.
I think we're getting better, but I don't think we have more free will in the workplace. Like,
It's an interesting one.
Think about like, I mean, this movie theater thing keeps coming up in my mind, but I'll give you like an example, a comparison. Like back in the day, like when our parents were working, like if you said like, hey, you know, I come here all the time, can I get a discount on popcorn? They might just give you a fucking discount.
That happens now. To everybody
But
that...
you have to push for it, and not many people do it anymore.
True. Yeah.
I had a guy
You do have
come
to
in
push for
recently that asked for a military discount. This guy's probably like later 30s, maybe early 40s. He's like, I was in here before, and like this person and this person gave me a military discount. I know you have it. I don't know why you're not giving me a military discount. And I was like, dude, I don't know who those people are. We don't give you a military discount. I'm not going to do it. And it's not it's not like disrespectful to you. It's just like I'm not going. It's not a garage sale. It's a store. I have to sell you things at retail price. Thank you for your service, but like I'm not just going to give you money off. It's just not like a policy. It's not there. And it really got me worked up.
You would hate me coming into the store.
Oh,
Can I please get 10% off?
No. On what? Is this damaged? Did you flick it the wrong way? Did you tear it open?
Dude,
you did that? Well, that's on you, and you're buying it. So, like, why would I give you more money off for destroying my stuff? Like, I'm very strict with that stuff.
I know you are.
But, that's a good example comparison. It's like, you know, 30 years ago, you can get away with, like, just doing whatever you wanted. Because, like, as long as you were making profit, the owner didn't really care. So you had a lot more like free will to like please people. That's why there's more sense of community in like towns and stuff with like business owners. Like, oh, I love this family restaurant and whatnot. It's because they had a lot more freedom to make those connections and like not exactly work, but like focus on the customers and whatnot.
Yeah.
And now it's like we need numbers, we need sales, we need improvements.
Yeah.
And they're coming down on like the lower tiered workforce, like at Walmarts and Publix and stuff like that, and they're like, this is exactly what you do. You can't do anything outside these lines.
Teachers and stuff too.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, also,
but see, here's the
schools
problem.
of business too.
But this is the problem though, is that as things get bigger and there's more people and things grow, then it becomes more standardized. It becomes more like think about it. If you're at a school 100 years ago, that school is in your town. Like, that town has certain things. Like, I'm just trying to give an example here, but, like, say your town is a railroad town or an oil town or something like that, right? Where that's a major job there. Like, 80% of the town is employed by this one business. Like, that was somewhat common. Mm-hmm. And then there's people that own, like, little businesses and shops and restaurants and stuff. But it's all kind of local. And so everybody that's contributing in that little city is kind of seeing the benefit of it. They're getting a little bit of money. They're getting a little bit of... you know what I mean? Like, it's a community. It's a small community that's able to, like, withstand and take care of itself. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you keep getting bigger, whatever it is, if it's a school, if it's the government, if it's a business, whatever it is, as it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger...
All those are businesses, though.
Well, they are all businesses to an extent, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. These different, like, categories, though, as it keeps getting bigger, then they start standardizing things, and they start making, like... You can't control everything, so they do their best to control it, and... by doing that, you limit the autonomy because you can't have people making as many mistakes. But mistakes are what allow you to grow and learn and like become better. So it's like, I get it, but at a
corporate level, they're not going to do that at the risk of sales.
True, and that's the problem though, because it's like when I worked at the Hard Rock, for example, I was doing banking and stuff there. They had like a 100-page manual of like all the rules and regulations and ways you had to do things, and like if this happens, do this. And so like over time, this has been created. You know what I mean? And most businesses have this. Like it's called an SOP, standard operations
SOP.
procedures or something like that. And so a lot of businesses have this now, and it's like, who reads that?
Nobody.
Who references that? No
it's
one.
in a binder in a drawer,
Exactly.
in a break room that no one looks at.
But that's the way that it's supposed to be run. And so inherently you're creating a problem because now the way that things are supposed to be done is not how it's happening. So now there's like a miscommunication, basically. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying one way is the right thing or one way is the wrong thing. Or
I will.
I don't know because I'm not...
I think instead of trying to grow one thing, you should try to capitalize on a bunch of small things or the creation of a bunch of small things. The only problem is inherently they do get bigger.
I think that's the wave that's starting now, though. Like people starting all these little businesses again, people starting all their online shops and like doing all these little things. Like the amount of people that have, like that I know anyway, that have quit their jobs is ridiculous. Like so many people I know have quit their jobs and been like, I'm going to go on a vacation. I'm going to go start a YouTube channel. I'm going to go start an Etsy business, or I'm going to do whatever.
Not a care in the world.
No, and they seem so happy though, and they're actually able to sustain it.
I think this is part of the four turnings though.
Oh, let's get into this.
Because
I'll let you explain
like
here.
80 years ago, people were doing the exact same thing that people are just starting to do now, which is go off on their own, start their own businesses.
Explain the 80-year thing first real quick.
So there is an author out there that wrote a book that Joe Rogan interviewed actually, and
Oh, did he? I
Jordan
didn't know that.
Peterson also read this book and talked about it. A lot of like people that intellectually talk about like different like philosophical things and psychology and whatnot talk about this, but the basis of it is that every 20 years there is a turning point in society,
Like a season.
like a season. What is the saying about like hard times creating strong men?
So it's hard times create strong men create good times, good times create weak men create hard times.
Right. So
And that's the 4-year or the 4 cycle.
I think COVID was like a turning point where that was like a weak time. So now we're seeing strong people come out of that.
I don't know if I'm all the way there yet though. I feel like, well, let's finish explaining how it works though. So over the 80-year period, there's these 4 cycles that happen.
Of 20 years apiece.
Yeah.
The first cycle can be whatever. Let's just say it's a time of strong people. A lot of these people, since they're so like
post World War II.
Post World War II,
Let's give a
yes.
reference point here.
Well, that's good times then.
But they were strong men.
They came out of the World War as strong men, and those strong men created a bunch of good times, like the Roaring '50s, they'd say.
Yeah.
In those good times, you didn't have to be so strong to handle that, so that created weak men. And those weak men couldn't handle the problems at that time, so that created...
The 70s.
The 70s, which are a whole issue. The hippie generation.
But I like that stuff still.
And that creates just like the weak people in the hard times, and those hard times to get through those, you need strong men. So there's like this viewpoint and studies of like how these turning points in society happen. And I think we're starting to see the turning point of like strong men are creating this next turning point.
Yeah.
But what I'm also starting to recognize
Could be women too, by the way. But I just wanted to say, because it's like when you hear it, it's like it's not just like these strong men. It's like a phrase representing like people doing like hard things.
the human race.
Yeah.
I'm still going to refer to it just as men though. You get
No,
the gist. But I'm starting to see like we were just talking about. What made me think of this is that I had the idea that you should just control a bunch of small communities. And then as they get bigger, you should just try to slow that down a bit. That way you don't have to deal with a massive monopoly of one company that you have to have a bunch of standards for, but you can have a bunch of freedom in little places and you can profit from everywhere. You can be a little more versatile. Problem with that is like...
It's monopoly though. That's how it works.
Right.
It's like as those little things get bigger and bigger, then this guy says, well, you don't want to do that anymore? You just want to go hang out in the mountains? I'll buy that from you. Now he's bigger. Mm-hmm. And then that guy's like, well, hey, like, why don't we just start combining all these things? And then it starts growing and growing and growing and growing, and it's a snowball. So
Right.
It's like you can't really stop it because it's the idea of capitalism. And it's not a bad thing. It's just it needs to have... I think the awareness is the problem. That there's not an awareness by most people.
Well, there's too much stuff going on.
Yeah.
And as like these small things grow, some of them fall off. So like one thing I was actually talking with my dad recently was about Crunch Fitness. Crunch Fitness
I love
is
Crunch.
you do love Crunch, but it's not going to be here when you're in your 40s.
I know.
Like it's like I just like starting up the small businesses made me think about that. There's a lot of businesses starting now that aren't going to be around in 30 years.
Yeah.
And to relate to Crunch Fitness and what I was talking about with my dad is Gold's Gym used to be the standard gym that used to have like 10 tennis courts, 3 basketball courts, used to have like a whole recreational center. It used to be this massive gym that everyone would go to. And then LA Fitness started popping up.
Well, LA Fitness came out of Lifestyles.
Yes.
Lifestyles was like the other Golds.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was, like you're saying.
Well, like look how that turned out over like so many years. Those just kind of died out, and like Crunch Fitness started coming about. Amp Fitness started coming
Planet
about.
Fitness, Anytime Fitness.
Mm-hmm. All those like little small places.
Yeah.
And
not to mention all the CrossFit places and the powerlifting places and the.
I didn't even think about that.
There's so many. Like I was.
We also just lost LA Fitness too.
What?
LA Fitness got bought out by East Sporta.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
So LA Fitness is a thing of the past now.
I did not know that.
But
go ahead though.
The idea of this is that growing is still inevitable, even though it's hard having to deal with those standards that come about it. But it's interesting to see that we're in another turning, and we're starting to see like signs of like, oh, like this is happening. What turn?
So this is yes. This is exactly what I wanted to get to. So the reason that I disagree a little bit is because not that I think it's completely different. I think that you're on the right track, but I just have a slightly different view a little bit. So I think that the COVID thing was not the major thing. Like if we're talking in these 80-year cycles and give or take however many years and stuff, it's kind of just a general pattern, and it mostly has to do with generational knowledge. Mm-hmm. So like over 80 years, a lot of knowledge that was gained in the past is lost now because those people die and stuff. So that's kind of the reasoning for this. But like World War II, for example, World War II is kind of the big one that like was the main thing, right? But what happened in the 5 and 10 years before that? A lot of little things were like just problem after problem after problem after problem, and then it led to World War II. And so I don't necessarily think that this coronavirus thing is the turning point. I think that this is a lead up. I think we're getting into, I think in the next 5 years or so, that's going to be the hard times that really like something happens. And I don't know what it is. Like I'm not going to be able to even try to predict something, but I do feel as though something is going to happen that's like more major than this virus, because it didn't seem like this was a big problem. Like it was obviously, but it wasn't like the Black Plague. Like not that many people died. It wasn't really that like, it was inconvenient, but it wasn't a problem. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's going to keep building somehow in the next like 5 years, maybe 10 years. And I think that's what's going to kind of be the turning point, if you will. But I think we're getting started. I just think like we're a little bit at the beginning end of it.
I think we're at the end of it, and I think the end of it's going to be 2028. I think in 2008...
These are just predictions, by the way.
No, this is fact. I talked to the Oracle this morning. In 2008, when the market crashed, I think that was the beginning of our hard times.
That didn't help.
It didn't. Because it took a long time to recuperate. We went through a lot of changes in society. There started to be more terrorist attacks. We started to be more involved in the Middle East. We started...
But think about that 20-year cycle. From like around 2001-ish, for 20 years basically until now-ish, that was like a 20-year cycle, right? Of like the kind of bad times, if you will, I guess a little bit. But
I don't think
it starts to shift.
I don't think 2001 to 2008 were bad times. I think those were good times.
No, I'm not saying that they were bad times, but I'm saying it's part of the cycle of like shifting. Because like when 2001 hit, a lot of things changed. Because the United States, like all the governmental like policies and like a lot of the ways that people are kind of being controlled more or less shifted drastically when that happened. Like especially in the United States. I don't know all the world politics, but in the United States, a lot of things happened where like a lot of Americans lost a lot of privacy, and a lot of like things had happened that were kind of drastic that have led to a lot of problems in the last 10, 20 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but if all these bad things are happening, I would call those like hard times. and you still think that there's hard times to come.
I think that,
So
this is what I'm saying, is
Well,
I
maybe-
don't think that the hard times are still coming, necessarily. I think that there's something bigger on the horizon, like a World War II type of thing that's not here yet. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, think about it. Like, I can't really think of any... In the last, like, handful of years, there's nothing really that drastic that's happened in the United States anyway. Like, there's a lot of things happening around the world that are coming to fruition, it seems like. Like, if you look at the China stuff going on, if you look at the North Korea stuff going on, if you look at India becoming a bigger country with more power, if you look at all these different things happening globally, they're all kind of on the come up still. So that leads me to believe that, like, the United States is kind of just, like, staying back a little bit, kind of hanging on, and we're dealing with our own little, like, things. But I think there's something big coming at some point, and I just don't... I don't want to predict it, because I don't know. I have no idea. This is just my
World
opinion.
War III by 2028. That is my prediction.
I think it's a possibility.
Everything's a possibility.
True.
But I don't think we'll be out of, like, all this, like, problematic things that keep coming up until, like, the end of this decade. And I think...
It'll be interesting. It's cool being young.
It is really cool being young. I think in our 30s, that's when we'll not only have the good times in our life, but it'll be the good times in society.
Yeah.
At least
do you
I hope so.
Do you ever think about this, though? That, like... Because here's what I always come back on. Is, like, we have this conversation, right? And we're like, oh, like, maybe there's going to be another... like World War type of thing going on or whatever. But like every generation of like people thinks this. So Y2K. Yeah, I know. I'm messing up my language today. I'm a little tired still. Yesterday I had a long day. But like when Y2K.
No, say it again. Say it the right way though.
I had a long day yesterday, Doug.
You thinks this.
I think this. So basically, what I'm thinking is.
Say it the right way.
What I think is.
No, I like the other version of it.
Oh, okay. In like 2000, you've got like the Y2K stuff going on. And are you just going to keep interrupting me the entire time, Doug? Are you going to keep interrupting me? Because I can't... How am I supposed to...
You liked Y2K? Is that what you just saying?
I can't communicate effectively with you. Would you like to explain?
I like your socks. I got elf socks on.
But yeah, I think every generation kind of has like a drastic thing that they think is going to happen. You know what I mean? And so even like with politics and stuff, every kind of generation, like that's what the hippies were, you know what I mean? Like that's what that generation of movement was all about, was like changing the politics, changing the way that society is run. And it seems like every generation, every younger generation, like every 10, 15, 20 years, kind of has that idea. And it shifts.
I feel like we just tried doing that, and I feel like we're still in the middle of doing that.
I think we are. That's what I'm saying, is I think we're kind of in the middle of that shift, and it's cool being where we're at, because we can think all the stuff we want, but we very well could be like 80 years old and looking back and being like, well, we thought that this was going to happen.
This is what actually happened.
That's not right at all. We were so dumb.
Little did we know.
And then some like 10-year-old comes up and they're telling us about like what they think's going to happen, and we're like, if only you knew what I knew. You know what I mean? Like,
but now you understand why your grandparents say stuff like that.
Exactly. It's just funny to think about, because they like, it's so weird, because the more people I talk to, the more I realize that this, like the stuff that we think and the things that happen, they're not like isolated events. They're things that have repeated themselves through history. It's part of human nature. You know what I mean? Like every society builds and grows and builds and grows and spreads and dies, and
a lot of things happen again, but just with a different twist that you're not expecting, which is why like
you're fun.
Like, this might happen again, but no, and then it happens again, but there's a twist that made you think it wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah, I've always liked that though, like this topic of like patterns of history, I guess. Mm-hmm. I've always really liked history, and I like patterns and like how it kind of works. It's just fun to think about. It's cool to think that you almost could predict things, even though you can't, but it's kind of fun to think about.
Like I said, I talked to the Oracle this morning, and I was right about everything. That's all I want to say.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, as we kind of make our predictions for 2022 here, we were talking a little bit about, like, just being focused and kind of, more or less, we were kind of discussing, like, we have goals and different things that we wanted to kind of do this year, you know what I mean, as everybody does for the new year. And we kind of were briefly getting into focus and, what was the other word? Kind of, like, determination, and, like, kind of how to structure things a little bit. Discipline, there you go. So, Was there something that specifically that you wanted to talk about with that, or?
Not necessarily. I had a thought yesterday where I was like, there's a lot of things that like I need as like a tool or a resource in my life, and I was making a list in my head, and I want to write them down. I was like, I really want this, and this year, and I want it yesterday. So like,
That hunger though.
Yes, and there's a lot of outside factors, like whether it's like what's going on in social media, or what the government's saying, or what somebody's saying to you, what have you, that try to like dictate how you feel. And I'm like in a mood right now where I'm just like, I don't care. Like, this is like, you see this list? This is what I care about. This is what I want.
But that's awesome.
You do you.
Yeah.
Don't come near my list. Like, that's how I'm feeling. Like, I want to get like really focused, and I'm like starting to like push aside all these outside factors that take me away from like what I want.
Yeah. You know who that kind of reminds me of a little bit, actually? Is John just started doing this. It seems like about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. Like, John's always been, Johnny Camp, who's been on the podcast, he's always been a very focused guy. He's always been very, like, determined and very, like, in the gym and stuff. Yeah. But it seems like about a month ago, maybe-ish, he was like, hey, I'm cracking down. Like, because he's got that marathon. And I think that's kind of what helped him with it. Mm-hmm. But he kind of said the same stuff that you just said about, like, this is my list. This is what's important to me. This is how I'm going to be governing my life, and this is going to be how I make my decisions. This is what's important to me, and that's it. Like, you're not going to change my mind. I'm not concerned about what, you guys say, about what you guys say, about what the government says, about what, my body is saying. Like, he, what I mean? He'd be like, well, this hurt, and I did this to my knee, or did this to whatever, and he's like, I'm going to keep going. And that's kind of what it sounds like you're saying, too, is you've kind of figured out, like, what you want to be doing, what's important to you, what you're passionate about, and you're going to do that stuff. And that's what I'm saying is, I think so many people have kind of been coming to this conclusion with the end of 2021. I think a lot of people are being like, hey, I don't want to work there. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to put up with this group of people. I don't fit into a political party. Like, people are starting to become a little bit more independent, in my opinion, and kind of focusing on what they think is important. And I think it's really cool to see.
Do you think it's everybody, or do you think it's just people that are in our age group that you're surrounding yourself by?
I think about this a lot. I think it is our age group a little bit, because we're kind of on the cusp of becoming, a part of society. Yeah. Because, like, everybody that we're around, like, let's say 18 to 25, right, ish, those people are, like, growing into they're becoming the adults that are going to be having kids and going to be kind of running companies and going to be starting to get into government and starting to be, influencing things. Mm-hmm. So it very well could be just our kind of generational group. But it seems like I've noticed a lot of older people too, like people in their 40s and 50s and, even people in their 60s and 70s. Like, I've been Ubering people around that were like, somewhat old, and they were kind of telling me stuff like this, where they were just like, hey, 2022 is going to be a great year. Like, I've got this little hobby that I wanted to do, or, I've been wanting to, go walk or, go on this hike or do different things. And it's kind of cool because I remember last year at New Year's, this was not the feeling. Like, everybody last year at New Year's was like, hey, 2021 better be, like, just anything better. Like, people were just like, I'm done with 2020. Just end it, please. Like, just take it out. And this year, it seems like people are more optimistic, which is really nice to see.
Optimism helps.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people that shut down optimism because they're like, it's not realistic. It's not guaranteed.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that I'm an optimistic person per se, but I like to see the good side of things.
I'd say I'm the opposite. I think I'm too optimistic, and then I have to be like grounded. And it's like, yo, it's cool that like you're creative and you dream like that, but like you're still living at your dad's. Like, you're not that cool.
Sometimes you can be pretty optimistic, which like is nice because it like I'm like, oh,
that could work.
That's good.
It's nice.
But sometimes when it doesn't work out, then that sucks.
But yeah, 2021 taught me that lesson though.
Yeah.
You can be optimistic, but like stay grounded to your roots.
Yeah.
That was so interesting. We had like a whole list of stuff. Well, not like a whole list, but we had like certain things we wanted to talk about, and then we talked for 30 minutes strictly about like society.
What are we at right now?
We're at 34.
34? Oh yeah. Yeah, so I mean, like you just said, we kind of had like before we started.
That's just absurd.
And every week we try to
we had like our own things to talk about, and we're like, let's actually talk about like the 4 turnings.
Yeah. That was not not at all what we were going to discuss. We try to get like a couple things that we want to talk about, so that way, you know, we have
doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. So that way you guys are a little entertained, and there's some substance to what we're doing here. It's not just for fun for us.
No, it is just for fun for us.
Well, definitely
I really
is,
don't
but-
care about you, Brad.
Oh, you're going to shout out Brad right there?
No, it was just a random name.
Brad, I hope that you like this podcast. We've been putting in so much effort to make sure that you specifically like it.
Yeah, it's all because Brad said this is getting too predictable.
And we really care about Brad. We really want him to be entertained, and we want him to be successful.
Death to Brad. Vote for not Brad.
You are just against Brad lately.
Yeah, because he said you're boring.
Bradley, let me tell you a little secret. Doug is saying these things to be entertaining. He doesn't believe them. After this is done, he's going to start crying, and he's going to be like, I love Brad so much.
No,
I just love
Brad.
Brad.
Send you death threats. I'm going to kick you off and ban you off Twitter.
Okay.
That's where you draw the line.
I think that's a good place to stop for
Don't touch my Twitter handle.
I don't even have Twitter. I had Twitter for 5 minutes in like 9th grade.
For 5 minutes in 9th
I've never
grade.
liked it, though. I've never liked that stuff. The only reason I have Instagram is because I like sharing pictures and I like seeing people's pictures, like pictures.
You know,
I don't care about the little tweets and stuff. That just frustrates me.
I have a real good story that goes somewhat along with 5 minutes in 9th grade, but that's for another time.
Okay. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for today, then. This has been Absurdity. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a comment if there's anything that you guys wanted to say, any feedback. Reach out to us on Instagram at Landshark Lifestyle and at
Doug_PUT.
There you go. Please like the video if you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you guys next week with another episode of Absurd. Actually, no. Stop that. I'm going to be out of town because I'm going to be snowboarding this week. So we will not be doing an Absurdity podcast next week. It will be the week after. So please stay tuned and look forward to 2 weeks from now. Cheers. Peace out.